Women face a crossroads as they approach or as they turn 60, and there are more choices and options open to us now ever than before for finding fulfillment and joy after 60. Are you wondering how to plan to ensure that you have that choice for a fulfilling role, whatever that looks like for you? For women entrepreneurs and executives, planning life after 60 does require financial flexibility, but it's not all about the money. Today, I'm speaking to Millie Gormley, who specializes in working with independent women in Ontario, Canada. Millie believes that you can be calm, comfortable, and confident about your financial future in the next 10, 20, or even 30 years. Millie does acknowledge and asserts that the financial industry does not always serve women the way we deserve to be served, and we need to understand the many elements of a financial plan that serves our own best interests. Welcome, Millie. How are you doing?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak.
And it's a real pleasure to have someone talk about how we can support the lifestyle and what we want to see in fulfillment into the future, right? So
Absolutely.
please share with our audience today what you mean by that assertion that the finance industry has not necessarily served us and our particular needs.
Yeah, the financial services industry has traditionally been what I irreverently call male, pale, and stale, and that's sort of been the focus. It has been a lot of old white guys in suits telling the rest of us how to live our lives, and that is changing, but it is changing slowly, and it is still there. There still is a little bit of that attitude a lot of times that women run into when they're speaking with a financial planner, and especially women who are single. That's
Mm,
what I'm calling independent women. So basically, traditionally, you would meet with your financial planner. He would come to your house, or you would go to his office, and it was 99% of the time a he. And the husband and the wife would sit down together, and the conversation would be had. And most of the conversation would be between the boys, right? The gentleman would be having a conversation about things, and if the woman had a question, it might get answered. I don't want to say that it's been an absolute terrible experience for all women all the time. No,
mhm,
because there are very good male financial advisors out there, but the industry as a whole has very much focused on the couple, meaning the man and the wife, as
mm,
opposed to the couple as a joint holder. So there was a fair bit
mm,
of, don't worry your pretty little head over it, we'll take care of you. And I don't think that's a great way for anyone to approach any aspect of their lives, by letting someone else take care of the decision making process and the knowledge of what is actually going on with your money and with your investments. So for me personally, I'm very much conscious and aware of, I want to know what's going on with you. I want to know what's going on in your head. I want to know what you feel about your future, about your plan, about all of those pieces of your financial life working together. Because
mhm,
there's a lot of variables. There are a lot of pieces that need to mesh properly for us to get where we want to go in life.
mhm,
So
mhm,
you talk about, for most people, first of all, it's cash management. What's coming in, what's going out, where's the money being spent, how can we make sure that whatever is being spent is spent in the best possible way, so
mhm,
that you've got enough left over to save and invest. And then once we've kind of figured out, okay, we've got X amount of dollars to work with, then we start talking about investment planning. What is the best investment for a person depends upon what that money's for. If this is
mhm,
money for retirement and you're not retiring for 30 years, we're going to treat that money a lot differently than if you're planning on buying a house in 5 years and this is your down payment. So
mhm,
those are two very different scenarios, and you would use very different investment solution for those.
mhm,
So that really requires having a good in-depth conversation about what it is that you want your life to look like,
mhm,
and how do we set up all of the money to work that way.
Mhm,
From
mhm.
investment planning, we start talking about retirement planning. What do we want things to look like when you stop working and have that be, full-time work? Some people, it'll transition to part-time work. Some entrepreneurs will never retire in the traditional sense. The
Right.
whole concept of retirement is changing quite a lot for a lot of people.
Mm,
So
mm.
having an individualized conversation about what do you want retirement to look like for you? It's kind of a what do you want to be when you grow up type
Yeah.
of conversation, right? Let your imagination wander. What would you like to do? Okay, well, now let's get back down to reality and see what you can afford to do based on what you've got going on. And then another part of financial planning is the insurance piece.
Mhm.
Not everybody needs every kind of insurance, but for some people with some situations in their lives, insurance can be a really big part of making sure that the overall plan is going to work. Because if something happens to one partner in a relationship, then what's the other partner going to do without that person's income? How can we account for something like that to happen? How can we protect the assets that we're building? Insurance is one way to deal with that. And then sort of on the back end, we talk about tax planning. How can we make sure that you're paying the right amount of tax,
Yeah.
i.e., $1 more than will keep you out of jail, and estate planning to make sure that okay, so. Uh, I joke about it a little bit. I say I don't want any of my clients to die on a pile of money because
Mhm.
to me that means you've not enjoyed your life as much as you possibly could have. But at the same time, you also don't want to run out of money. So, with any luck, for most people, there will be something left when they're gone. And you want to make sure that wherever it goes is where you want it to go. And that's what an estate plan is for.
Mhm, mhm. There is so much in what you've just shared, and I think that many people, when they speak or when they have spoken with their financial planner in the past, it has been more or less like what you want your life to look like, or what you want your standard of living to look like
Hmm.
when you retire. So there's always been that assumption that people are going to retire.
Yeah.
And people don't retire for many, many reasons, like you're saying. Even when we get into the topic of um, living to a retirement age, healthy, and being able to earn income up to what was traditionally a retirement age.
Hmm.
And that has shifted so much. And as you were talking about insurance as well, I think a lot of people in the past have thought about their financial plan for retirement end
Hmm.
goal, finance insurance for when they're no longer here or their partner's no longer here, end goal. But
Yep.
there's a whole other gamut of life situations that come up. So
Yep.
insurance, it's not just about life insurance, is it?
It's absolutely not just
Yeah.
about life insurance. So the other two sort of main types of insurance that we typically work with as financial planners is disability insurance.
Mhm.
If you are unable to work, this replaces your income or a portion of your income. Many people have at least some disability coverage through their employer, but when you kind of dig under the hood a little bit and see what it is, so disability insurance policies, they don't lay on top of each other. They've got to sort of fit in together because if you
Mhm.
qualify for WSIB, everybody wants you to take WSIB first before another insurance coverage will come into
Mhm.
play. So
Mhm.
there's layers and there's complications that you kind of have to take into
Sure.
account when you're designing a disability insurance plan. And everybody's occupation is different too. So there's different ways you can approach the insurability of something. These types of insurances, so life insurance these days, if you're relatively young and a non-smoker and decent health, it's relatively cheap. But for disability insurance, because there's so many more ways someone can become disabled, and the odds of someone becoming disabled in their working life are a lot higher,
Mhm.
then it tends to be a little bit more expensive. So I want to be really, really careful when I'm designing a plan for someone. So the occupation that you're in is going to determine what the premium looks like. The benefits that you choose are going to affect the premium. So there's waiting periods
Mhm.
for a disability plan. So you can have a 30-day waiting period or a 90-day waiting period or a 2-year waiting period. And the longer your waiting period, the less you'll have to pay on premiums. The benefit period can be longer or shorter. You can have things like a return of premium options. it gets very complicated very, very quickly.
Yeah, it
So
is.
but that's one thing. So that disability insurance is to protect your income if you're unable to work as the result of an accident or an injury or an illness.
Mhm.
Critical illness insurance is one that's a lot of people aren't particularly familiar with, but it's almost up there with importance as life insurance in
I
my
would say
mind.
so. I would
Yeah.
say so. Yeah. Mhm.
Because again, the odds of becoming ill, are reasonably high. Like 1
Mm,
in what is it? 1 in 8 or 1 in 9 women come down with breast cancer. Heart
mhm,
attacks, 1 in 3 or 4. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I mean, they're out there and you can easily look them up. So the
mhm.
way a critical illness policy works is it's like a life insurance policy where you don't have to die.
Right.
If you are diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, and depending on the policy, they'll either have a list of lots of them, or it'll be basic. And again, the more illnesses that can trigger the CI policy will determine what the premium is. But the big ones are heart attack, cancer, and stroke. So
Mhm,
if you're diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, you can collect on this policy, and that's a lump sum of money that you can use for whatever you need to. So it's not like you have to incur medical expenses and submit receipts and get money back. This is your money. You do with it whatever you want. So some people would use it to take time off work while they're going through treatment. Some people will use it to pay off a mortgage or other debt. Some people will use it to access treatment. So they might want to, go to the Mayo Clinic or something like that. And others
mhm.
might, depending on the diagnosis, use it to take that, one last family vacation,
Yeah, yeah.
if that's what they decide that they want to do with it. So
Yeah.
it money does not solve all of your problems in this life, but what it can do is give you choices and options and flexibility. And certainly when someone's been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, anything that can give you those things is it's good to have.
Mhm. I think the key words that you just said is choices, options, and flexibility.
Yep.
Because even if you go into that age of fulfillment after being an executive, or even as you continue to be an entrepreneur and being flexible and having options in how you work, where you work, uh, finances are important. They're not the number one thing, but they do give you peace of mind as well, right?
Well, the money feeds everything else,
It
right?
does, it does, yeah.
If you don't have money, you can't eat well. You can't take good care of yourself. You can't enjoy the time that you're retired. You can't take a trip and enjoy that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not the only thing, but it sure as heck is the base for an
It's
awful lot
part
of
of it.
things.
That's right, that's right. Mhm. I've met, many people that, like, just to, appreciate that our audience is both, women executives who may
Mhm.
work for a large corporation that has great insurance, even
Yeah.
their, insurance for having those things, like the nice health benefits, like making sure that you can get a massage when you want to, or even
Yep.
to stay healthy, with your dental care. Those insurance policies are quite often um, offered as benefits by a corporation.
Mhm.
However, part of our audience is entrepreneurs as well. And
Yep.
as an entrepreneur myself, I can tell you that the rates for that kind of, even if you're part of a group, is something that needs to be budgeted and
Mhm.
determined. What, not that there's going to be a return on the investment, because usually the return on investment is if you're sick or if you die or you have a critical illness, right? But
Right. But
what
this is the thing with insurance. I mean, it's the kind of thing where you want to have it, but you don't want to have to use it. And
that's
the
right.
best case scenario is if you've wasted your money by never putting in a claim. So yeah, it's a bit
Yeah,
of an awkward thing that way, but
yeah.
it's I would rather be in the position of having wasted money, because nothing horrible happened,
Happen. Yeah.
than have saved that money and something horrible happened and I wasn't prepared for it. Because
Yeah.
most people, especially as you're younger, so when you're younger and you've got a lot of debt and a lot of people depending on you, like really, really depending on you. I'm thinking,
Mhm.
parents of small children. That's the time when life insurance is going to be the absolute most important thing. As we get older, as we build up our own assets, as the people who depend on us are able to take care of themselves a little more, then the idea of having $1 million worth of life insurance when you're in your 70s and you're retired and you don't have any debt is lovely for estate planning purposes, or if you want to leave a charitable bequest or something like that. But is
Mhm.
it necessary to keep body and soul together for your children and keep food on the table? Not so much. So, insurance is a tool that you can use throughout your life as part of your financial planning
Yeah.
process, but
Mhm.
at different purposes and different life stages for sure.
Yes. Yes, and definitely like the mindset that the life insurance may not be your legacy. Uh,
Mhm.
that for a lot of women who have had, they've been responsible and they've had life insurance, and then when it ends or when it reduces or it becomes too expensive to maintain, that's quite a mind shift. So
Yeah.
let's shift over to the other side of the financial plan to support our fulfillment after 60.
Mhm.
You did mention a little bit about investments. What would you like? Because we come to a point too where there's the our retired savings, right?
Yeah.
Where there's an age where you do have to start, pulling out and
Yeah.
putting into a RIF. Like in our area in Canada, anyway. I'm not too sure about the United States or anywhere else in the world, but I'm sure it's similar. And I had a an in-law that actually said to me that once they stopped bringing in earned income and had to start pulling from their savings,
Mhm.
they said their issues around money and their mindset changed a lot. In fact,
Absolutely.
she said it was more stressful,
Mhm.
even though she had this really nice nest egg. But of course, as you pull it out, it's then taxed, okay, because it
Yep.
was never free. Some things are free, but
Yeah.
just to, some people see that pot of savings as now we can go out and buy this, and now we can go out and buy that. And other people, especially when we're talking about a couple, I've
Mhm.
noticed some of them get very tight on the purse strings and say, oh no, this has got to last us, right? We don't
Yep.
know how long it's got to last us, but there's hesitancy there. So there's
Oh,
whole lot of mindset around
yes.
finances once you reach that point in your life as well. Can you say a little bit about
Well,
that?
I could say a lot about that. And yeah, you're right. It is a mindset issue, absolutely. I mean, we spend certainly the financial services industry, the retirement planning people will tell you you've got to save money. You've got to save money for your future. What will happen if something happens to you or you can't work, you get sick or whatever, right? You've got to
Yes.
save, you've got to.
Same, same.
And so we internalize that and we say, yes, we should save money. So we do. And then we get to a point in our lives where it's really a time of reckoning with the fact that we're no longer young, we're no
Mhm.
longer working, we're no longer contributing to society, we're no longer we don't feel like we should be little old ladies living off of our pensions. Um, but the fact
I'll
of the
picture
matter
that.
is if you're past the age of 71 and you have an RRSP, by the end of that calendar year, you have to convert it to a registered retirement income fund and start pulling money down from it. The government will make you because they want their pound of flesh. The RRSP and the RIFs were never designed to eliminate paying tax. They are designed to defer it and pay you the tax when you start drawing down from it. So when we start drawing down from it, we have to mentally adjust to the fact that you are now a retiree, in that sense. And you're not a young person anymore. And this is hard. Like I feel uncomfortable even saying it, and I'm not anywhere near 71. But it's something that we need to also address and think about before we actually pull the trigger on retirement and say, I'm out of here. Because it's retiring is different than quitting a job. Like if you've ever had that experience of working in a really toxic place and you got to say, to heck with you, I'm out of here. There's something very liberating and freeing about that. But retiring is different. Retirement is the end of something. It is the end of a career. It may take different forms for a lot of people. People may still continue to work in some way, shape, or form. But when you're at a point in your life when you're starting to draw down your retirement savings, that is a mind shift that you really need to spend some time and sit with. And as you say, I mean, sometimes people get really, really tight with their money to their own detriment. I had one lady, she's a lovely lady. She had plenty of money. She did not need to worry about money. But she came into my office one winter with a broken zipper on her coat. I'm like, okay, well, go buy yourself a new coat or go get that fixed, at least something, right? If you really love the coat, keep it. But she's like, oh no, I couldn't spend the money. And I'm looking at her balance and I'm looking at her going, excuse me. Oh no, that's for my kids. And I
Yes.
looked at, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
which is all well and good. You want to
Yes.
take care of your children. But my dear, your son, the engineer, and your daughter, the doctor, they're doing just fine. They don't want you to be cold so you can have a couple extra $100 in your estate when you die.
Mhm.
It's wrapping your head around the fact that this money is mine. This is money is for me to
Yes.
spend.
Yes.
That's an adjustment for people because when we're
Yes.
putting it away, it's this money is
Please.
for later. Well, when later is now, yeah, you've got to spend some time thinking about that. And it's almost like I said, it's a what do you want to be when you grow up kind of question. What do you want the rest of your life to look like? And you need to spend some time sitting with that and thinking about that and
Mhm.
then planning again for that next stage. So it's not
Mhm.
like you stop working and then it's just life still goes on, right?
Still
So
goes
and that's
on.
another thing too, like some people are under the impression that when you retire or when you convert your RSP to a RIF, you collapse all of your investments and you take a big pile of cash and you leave it in a bank account. Don't do that. That is no, not a good idea because life continues. Inflation goes on, and to have some money that's still working for you and
Working for you,
growing
yeah.
is really,
Mhm.
really important because, like you say, we don't know how long you're going to need to make it last. Many people are living into many women certainly are living into their 90s on a pretty routine basis. And
Mhm.
having that, so it's one thing to have, and you're mentioning corporate listeners, like so if they're in a good corporation and they've done well, they might have a really nice pension also to look forward to, which is awesome. But at the same time, having just a pension and no savings really limits your abilities to enjoy your retirement because it's basically like you're on an allowance and there's nothing for
Mm.
extras.
That's
Right. So
true.
if you've got some savings off to the side, well, that's what you can use for your trip money. That's what you can use for unexpected house repairs or car repairs. And that way you're not, trying to constantly money grub every dollar that comes in from your pension if you've got
Mhm.
a little bit off to the side.
Mhm. Mhm. So, um, at the risk of generalizing, I have a question to ask you. Do you find more women tighten their purses, or do more men tighten their wallets as
Mm,
they get into their 60s?
well, you know what? If men weren't tight with their wallets before, they don't tend to get tight with it later on.
Mhm.
Women, there are certainly there's something that women do. It's called bag lady syndrome,
Mhm.
where suddenly we're sort of we're confronted with the fact that we're aging and we're confronted with our mortality that comes along with that and we start to worry what's going to happen to me and I'm going to end up under a bridge with a Gucci bag and what's going to happen to me and it's yeah, so women tend to worry about that a little more. They tend to catastrophize a little bit more and sort of say, okay, well, if this investment doesn't work out for whatever reason, then I'm not going to have any money and I'm going to end up having to sell my house and I'm going to end up under a bridge. And we tend to kind of let our imagines run away with ourselves,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is why it's
Yeah.
just if you're feeling unsure about what your situation first, okay, so the first thing to do if you're feeling unsure and feeling worried about your situation is get clear on what your situation actually is.
Mhm.
Sit down with somebody, kind of lay it all out on the table and say, okay, I've got this pension, but I was only in it for 15 years, so it's not going to be very big, very big. I've got my house, but it needs a lot of repair, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get for it if I sell it. I've got my investments, but they haven't been doing well the last. Like, there's all these things that can make us start to worry about things, right? Well,
Right. Right.
find out exactly where you are at, and okay. So here's what you've got. Figure that out. Then it's a matter of, okay, well, again, what do you want your life to look like? And how can we work with what you've got to get you as close to where you want to be as you possibly can?
Mhm. Mhm.
But if you don't know what your situation actually is, then there's certainly no sense worrying about it because you might be worrying for nothing,
Mhm.
or you might not be worrying enough and wasting time that could be spent doing something about it.
Mhm. 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 Either way, it's going to affect your ability to have fulfillment after the age of 60.
Absolutely.
If you're worrying about everything, you're not going to be able to use that money wisely for fulfillment, like use it in a
Yep.
flexible way.
Yep.
If you're not looking at your financial system, or what you have, where you are now, I believe, and you probably agree with me here, that like you were saying, people are save, 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 and then uh, they think that it ends at some point. But
Mhm.
there's still, and I have this long list of how you can still continue to save money
Absolutely.
after 70, when you start to have to pull money out, right?
Yep.
But so it's still a little bit of, it's that balance of save and enjoy yourself, right? Rather than
100%, and
oh
not living your life in fear. Like, any
yeah.
decisions that you make that are based in fear are not gonna be good decisions, right?
No.
It's a matter of, okay, what get clear on what your situation actually is, and then you can go forward in the knowledge of, "Here's where I'm at. It may or may not be exactly where I want to be, but now you're working with what's real."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if you're working with what's real, then you just have to get into that point of, "Okay, this is what it is. I accept that. Now let's move forward." There's always a moving forward. There's always a building up. I
Yeah.
used to be an insurance claims adjuster, and that was a tough job because you only ever meet someone after something horrible has happened to them,
Mm.
and you can never really make the thing not have happened. I can't take away the fact that you were in a car accident. I can't take away the fact that your house burned down, right? But at least with financial planning, when I meet with someone new, even if they're just coming out of a bankruptcy or something like that, something horrible has happened to them, where you are now is where you are, and we can help you get up, and
Mm.
we can get things better. Things can be
Mhm.
better going forward if you're
Mhm.
willing to put in the effort and the work. Sometimes there is work to do on a client's part, around spending, for one. That's usually the first place where we see opportunities to tweak things, um, and make sure that you're not wasting money, because wasting
Mhm.
money does you no favors. But if
No.
you don't know what your situation is, you could very easily be wasting a ton of money and not have no idea.
Mhm. 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 So, to move into the area of fulfillment, I'd like to
Mhm.
ask you a question. Um, was there a time in your life where you identified a pivotal moment when you realized what fulfillment will look like for you?
You know what? That happens on a fairly regular basis for me. So this
Oh.
morning, yes, I had an appointment with some clients. So we sat down and we talked to, just I'm updating paperwork. That's why I wanted them to come in. And so we started talking about, okay, well, how are things going? And she said, "You know how I said I wanted to retire at 63? Well, what if I want to retire at 62?" And I said, "Well, let's take a look." So we kind of pulled up the software, and we did the thing. We started tweaking some stuff and moving some stuff around. And I was able to tell her, "Yep, yep, you can retire at 62 and you're going to be just fine." And
Mhm.
that, when you see the effect that being able to tell someone something like that has, it's very fulfilling, because it's like,
Fulfillment.
I've made someone's life better. You
Mhm.
know? And it's not because of anything I did, it's just because now they know that all of the work that they've put into this over the years is paying off, and they're gonna be okay. Like, that's
Mhm.
pretty exciting for me.
So that's like you have fulfillment in hits, like it hits you whenever you serve someone, right?
Yeah.
So what about after you reach that time? Not necessarily when you retire, because I have a sense that maybe you won't retire in the traditional sense either. What will you
Probably
be
not.
looking for fulfillment at that point?
Well, for me, fulfillment, like you say, I mean, the service aspect of it is big for me. So anything where I can be of use, I guess. I mean, I come from a farming background, so I've got that old old school work ethic, must be useful kind of thing. So anything where I can feel like I'm useful is good. But yeah, I mean, fulfillment for me is, it's not just about my work. It's not just about money. It's about just being able to live my life, enjoy my home, and read my books and hang out with my cat. And I mean, my life is not it's not big and exciting in that way for a lot of, like, from the outside, I'm sure my life looks pretty boring to a lot of people, but I love it. You know, I've built a
Surely.
life for myself
Mhm.
that is sustainable. I've done the building of a life that I don't feel the need to escape from, and that's
Mhm.
probably why you're right. I will probably
Mhm.
not retire in the traditional sense as
Mhm.
long as I've got enough marbles to keep functioning.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, let's face it, I'm not digging ditches here. Right?
Mhm.
This is pretty physically undemanding work, so as long as my mind is up for it, I can continue doing this a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great segue. How could someone reach you, and what would you like to offer to our audience?
Well, if someone is at a point in their lives where they're feeling overwhelmed, I don't know what's going on. I am more than happy to offer a free half-hour consultation, where we just kind of have a good talk, and I can help. You know, in half an hour, I can't fix your life. Nobody can fix anybody's life in
No?
half an hour.
Well, that's
But
too bad.
I know, right? But, what I can do is bring some experience and another set of eyes to the table and kinda give you some direction as
Mhm.
to where you can go from there.
Mhm.
If you've got a good relationship with a financial advisor already, then that's, you know, that's the person you should be having this conversation with. If you
Mhm.
don't, then I'm happy to let's talk. You know, if there's an opportunity to work together, great. If there's not, I'm totally cool with that because I know that not every person that I talk to is going to be a right client for me.
Mhm.
So, we do have one, question in the chat. Do we want to address that quickly, or do we
Oh,
have time for that?
lovely. Okay, let's have a look at the chat. That's great. Let me get
Sorry it
to
took
my
so long to get to you there. Yeah.
technology here in the chat. Uh,
I just happen to have it up on my window, so
well, good, good. I'm glad you bring it up because it's probably a question to you.
Well, it does seem to be. So Kakura is asking if there is a specific life insurance that you should be contributing to. You know what? So many questions that I get, the answer starts with those two little words. It depends. It depends on what your situation actually is. What do you need the insurance for? So, like we were saying earlier, if you're young and you need it basically to cover off debt, and you don't have a lot of money to contribute to premiums, then you're probably going to be looking at a term policy, at least to start with.
Mm,
If you're looking at insurance as a way to build your estate or to leave a legacy, then you start talking about a universal life or a whole life policy, which are a little bit more expensive, but those are permanent coverages that will never expire on you as long as you keep paying the premiums.
mhm.
So it depends. I know it's not a very satisfying answer, but it's the truth.
It does depend because Kakura, we all have different lives, we all have different needs, and this is why I have this channel is because we can't lump all our needs into one central theme. It's different for all of us. So whatever fulfillment will look like for you, how you want to plan for that time, it's very much depends on what you're looking for. And I think that Millie would totally agree with the fact that some people think that any financial plan is going to get the money for where the amount of vacations that they want to take and things like that. Well, not everyone wants to take vacations, and it's not like a vacation if you're retiring from work either. It's
No, no, it's
could be a
not.
pretty
It's a whole
long
different
vacation.
lifestyle. Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
Kara, thank you so much for asking that question. And so, Millie, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yeah, there's a difference between information and advice. Information is out there. There is plenty of information. If you were to Google financial planning, Lord knows you can go down a thousand different rabbit holes, and you can do a lot of things yourself if you are inclined to do that. You can do your own investments. You can investigate to a certain degree. You can investigate insurance. You can do a lot of things yourself. But that's information. Advice is when you're sitting down with a professional who's going to look at what your situation actually is and bring some knowledge and expertise to the table that they can apply to your situation and make sure that whatever, because the thing is, your solution might not be the same as mine
Hmm.
and or somebody else or the brother. I don't know why it's always the brother-in-law. My brother-in-law said I should do this. Well, maybe he's right, but I'm not going to assume that just because he's your brother-in-law, unless he actually does happen to be a certified financial planner. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, you
Hmm.
want information is great, but sometimes you just need to get some advice.
Yes, information can be gathered from many, many places. Advice based on what your particular needs are. It's not a do-it-yourself thing. Like I talk the same about coaching. Like it's
Mhm.
some things are not do-it-yourself because you have different needs than the brother-in-law, or the brother-in-law's situation may be completely different, especially if we're talking to a single woman, right?
Yeah.
And as we know, we could become, even if we're in a relationship, we can become single for many different reasons over our lifetime.
Mhm.
So I think one of the points that you made is about us being responsible for it, like not solely like holding it, but being aware of the position that we're in financially, not leave it to someone else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
you've
yeah,
gotta take care of yourself.
yeah,
Prince
even
Charming isn't coming.
yeah. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What's not coming?
Prince Charming.
Oh,
Even so and even if you do have a wonderful partner in your life, that doesn't mean you should just let that partner take care of everything and you
no,
just kinda lie back and no. Be a grown up, be aware of what your actual situation is and take charge of it. And taking charge of it doesn't mean that you have to do everything yourself.
no,
Many of my clients, you know, I manage their investments for them. That's something that I do as part of the service that I provide because that's not something that they're interested in doing or that they want to be, you know, they're, oh, I can't deal with it. And that's fine. You know, everybody's different.
mhm,
But they do know, you know, what it is that I've got them invested in. They know, we have conversations about, okay, I want to make this change and here's why.
yeah,
And they are up to speed as to what's going on in
right,
their investments. That's
yeah.
that's my goal anyway, for sure.
Because life changes on a dime sometimes, as we've
Yeah,
all
huh.
experienced over the last couple of years. So I like to say to women, like, self-responsibility will allow you to have self-awareness and self-actualization. And that means being in a
Absolutely.
place where you are comfortable and you are achieving what you want to achieve, whether you're working or whether you're not working. So thank you very much, Millie. And thank you to Millie's followers as well today, and to my audience. Please join me each week. I interview women like Millie and other thought leaders. I haven't had any brother-in-laws yet, but about finding fulfillment. They'll put their 2 cents in, I'm sure.
No doubt.
But no, I bring on thought leaders, right? And for joy after finding fulfillment, for joy after 60. If you're interested in being a guest on my podcast, I would love to speak to you. Please reach out to me. Visit my website at patriciamuir.com. My name is in the corner, so you can see how Patricia Muir is spelled. And read the Encore weekly blog on my website. You'll be able to sign up for the weekly newsletter, which comes out Sunday mornings. And I have a great following of women Sunday mornings and a few men for self-care. Hundreds of women sit with their favorite beverage to read my latest insights on fulfillment in work and life. And often I will give an insight that comes from someone like Millie, because financial flexibility is critical to our self-care. So thank you and
Absolutely.
have a great day. And you will see links to Lily, how to contact her, in the show notes and on YouTube. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Lovely.